Here in Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. Maitri Vacha,
Maitri Uvacha
Bhagav Adayaste Munayo,
Bhrigu Adayaste Muniyo
Lokanam Shemadarshinah,
Lokanam Shemidarshinaha
Goptari Asati Vainirnam,
Goptari Asati Venirinam
Pashyanta Pashu Samyatam.
Pashyanta Pashu Samyatam.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Maitreya continued, O great hero Vidur, the great sages, headed by Bhrigu, were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that in the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interests of the people, they understood that without a ruler, the people would become independent and unregulated. So we can see that it was the sages actually who are very concerned about the welfare of the people, and they would actually guide the kings. This was in Vedic times, and the brahmanas, the sages, would guide the kings of how to rule the kingdom, and the kings would rule their kingdoms under their guidance for uh, the welfare of everyone. In this verse, the significant word is Shema Darshinaha, which refers to those who are always looking after the welfare of the people in general. All the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of how to elevate all the people of the universe to the spiritual platform. Indeed, they advised the kings of every planet to rule the people with that ultimate goal of life in mind, so that the people, everyone, could live happily uh, in whatever situation they were, and at the same time cultivate spiritual knowledge and go back home, back to Godhead. The great sages used to advise the head of the state or the king, and he used to rule the populace in accordance with their instruction. That's why Krishna says Raj Rishi. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Raj Rishi. The kings used to be like rishis because they were taking the advice from the rishis. After the disappearance of King Anga, there was no one to follow the instructions of the great sages. Consequently, all the citizens became unruly, so much so that they could be compared to animals. As described in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, human society must be divided into four orders according to quality and work. So Krishna himself has established this Varna Sharma Dharma. The Varna Sharma system, the Vedic system, is established by Krishna himself. He says that in Bhagavad Gita. And how does he create the divisions? Not based on birth, but according to quality, guna and karma. Guna karma vibhagasa. According to our karma and according to our nature. It's not that someone who's born in the family of a doctor automatically becomes a doctor. He has to qualify. Similarly, in Vedic system also, if someone was born in the Brahmana family, they had to cultivate the Brahminical qualities. In every society, there must be an intelligent class, administrative class, productive class, and worker class. In modern democracy, the scientific divisions are turned topsy-turvy, and by vote, Shudras or workers are chosen for administrative posts. Having no knowledge of the ultimate goal of life, such persons whimsically enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. The result is that no one is happy. Bhagavatam says we are all born as Shudras in this age of Kali Yuga, and but that we have to qualify ourselves. Without that process, we are just going about doing, acting in complete ignorance, enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. And then what happens? Ignorance leads to suffering. Viramataram ahuya
Viramatam
Taram
ahuya
ahuya
sunitham brahmavadinaha
sunitam
sunitam
brahmavadinaha
brahmavadina
prakriti asammatam venam
prakriti
prakriti
asammatam
asammatam
venam
venam
abhyaschinan abhyasinchan patim bhuvaha.
abhyapinchan
Sinchan
patim
patim
bhuvaha.
bhuvaha.
The great sages then called for the Queen Mother Sunita, and with her permission, they installed Vena on the throne as master of the world. All the ministers, however, disagreed with this. Now, because the sages were seeing that there is no king, okay, so let us install the son of the king. So they've installed Vena on the throne. Shutva nirpasanagatam
Shutva nripa asangatam
Venam atyugras shasanam
venam
Venam
ati
atyugra
ugrasashanam
niliyurdasyava sadhya
niliyayurtasya
niliyurasasya
vahasadha
sadhya
sarpatrasta ivakavaha.
sarpatrasta
sarpatrasta
iva akavaha.
ivakavaha.
It was already known that Vena was very severe and cruel. Therefore, as soon as all the thieves and rogues in the state heard of his ascendance to the royal throne, they became very much afraid of him. Indeed, they hid themselves here and there as rats hide themselves from snakes. When the government is very weak, rogues and thieves flourish. Similarly, when the government is very strong, all the thieves and rogues disappear or hide themselves. Of course, Veda was not a very good king, but he was known to be cruel and severe. Thus, the state at least became freed from thieves and rogues. So, what happened is because King Anga was no more there, so taking advantage of the situation, people started robbing, stealing, and now that Vena has been installed, now they're getting scared because they know that Vena is really going to punish them if they're caught. Sa aruda nripasthanam
Sa
Arudha
nirvasana
nipasthana
unnado ashtamibhutibhihe
unnato
annado
asavibhutihi
ashtavibhutihi
avamene mahabhaga
avamene
apamene
mahabhaga
mahabhagan
sabda sambhavita swataha.
stabda
sabda
sambhavita
sambhavita swataha.
swataha.
When the king ascended to the throne, he became all powerful with 8 kinds of opulences. Consequently, he became too proud. By virtue of his false prestige, he considered himself to be greater than anyone. Thus, he began to insult great personalities. In this verse, the word Ashta Vibhuti Bihi, meaning by 8 opulences, is very important. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us what is this 8 opulences. The king is supposed to possess 8 kinds of opulences. By dint of mystic yoga practice, kings generally acquire these 8 opulences. These kings were called Raja Rishis, kings who were also great sages. By practicing mystic yoga, a Raj Rishi could become smaller than the smallest. So, what are the 8 opulences? The opulences of the Ashta Siddhi, um, which one can get by performing the yoga process. So that's becoming smaller than the smallest. greater than the greatest, and could get whatever he desired. A Rajrishi could also create a kingdom, bring everyone under his control, and rule everyone. These were some of the opulences of a king. King Vena, however, was not practicing yoga, but he became very proud of his royal position nonetheless. Because he was not very considerate, he began to misuse his power and insult great personalities. So, if we have some kind of opulence, then we need to be responsible. But here, Vena, he's having these powers, but he is acting irresponsibly by misusing the power. They say that with great power comes great responsibility. But here, Vena, he has the power, but he's misusing. Like we see also in the case of Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful. He began misusing his power. So power corrupts, great power can really corrupt us. Uh, so that is one
So
of the
he
effects
did
that we
not.
get.
So he did
I'm
not
sorry?
gain the power. So he did not gain the power by the practice of yoga. He just was given it by the rishis, right?
Um, well, it does not say if he was given by the rishis or no, but it was, he said he became all powerful by virtue of his, thus he began to read. So his pride, because of pride.
Okay.
But it says here he was not
Yeah, it
practicing
says
yoga.
I'm sorry?
योग अभ्यास के बल से राजा
Yeah, was
नाटेश्वर
not
He
उपासना
practicing
didn't
करता
get
yoga.
था.
by the dint of
Yeah.
mystic yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, by dint, but the king is supposed to possess by dint of mystic yoga practice. Kings generally acquire these opulences. So, of course, he didn't do this
He did
yoga,
not.
but
So
somehow he has this power.
oh, he
Rajrishi is a,
has.
yeah, he somehow has this power because he's the king. So he's, of course, a great personality. These were some of the opulences of a king. But he became proud of his royal position.
Okay.
That was the
It's
point.
like I think same like Kans and Ravan. They
Yes,
misused, right?
that's right. That's right. Because of pride.
Right. Yeah.
He was very proud that he has these things. And so he began to misuse the power. We also become like that, right? When we get a little
Mm.
power, then we get proud and then we misuse it. So this is what's happening here to Vena, of course. Vena might be to a bigger degree. We might have it to a smaller degree. Or who knows, we may have it to a greater degree. But yeah, the point was that because he has all these powers, now pride is overtaking him and he's misusing the power.
Okay.
Evam
Thank you.
madanda utsikto
Evam
Evam
madanda
madanda
utsikto
utsikto
nirankusha ivadvipaha
Hirankusha iva dvipaha
paryatan ratham asthaya
Paryatan ratam
Ratham
asthaya
asthaya
kampayan iva rodasi.
Kampayan
Kampayan
iva rodasi.
Evarodasi.
When he became overly blind due to his opulences, King Vena mounted a chariot and, like an uncontrolled elephant, began to travel through the kingdom, causing the sky and earth to tremble wherever he went. So he's become so proud. Pride is intoxicating. That when we say that no intoxication also means we have to learn to give up our pride, which is so difficult because it blinds our consciousness, our intelligence, and the pride. And Lord Chaitanya, he says that chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. So how do we do that then? We are being asked to chant in the humble state of mind, but we are so proud. Then how do we do? We chant. We chant, and by chanting, we can get the purification. Na yastavyam na datavyam
Na
न
yastavyam
यष्टव्यं
na
न
datavyam
दातव्यम्
na hotavyam dvija kvachit
na
न
होतव्यं
होतव्यं द्विजा
dvija
द्विजाः
क्वचित्
kvachit
iti nyavarayad dharmam
iti
इति
nyavarayad
न्यवर्यद्
dharmam
धर्मम्
bheri goshena sarvashaha.
bheri goshena
घोषेण
सर्वशः
सर्वशः
sarvashaha.
All the twice-born Brahmanas were forbidden henceforward to perform any sacrifice. And they were also forbidden to give charity or offer clarified butter. Thus King Vena sounded kettle drums throughout the countryside. In other words, he stopped all kinds of religious rituals. What was committed by King Vena many years ago is at present being carried out by atheistic governments all over the world. The world situation is so tense that any moment governments may issue declarations to stop religious rituals. Eventually, the world situation will become so degraded that it will be impossible for pious men to live on the planet. Therefore, sane people should execute Krishna consciousness very seriously so that they can go back home, back to Godhead, without having to further suffer the miserable conditions predominant in this universe. So Prabhupada is telling us that as the age of Kali progresses, our consciousness gets more and more degraded. That's what's written in the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam says that the people who are born in Kali Yuga are unfortunate, lazy, misguided, quarrelsome, you know. So Prabhupada is giving us this instruction that if we do not want to suffer further, we should take up Krishna consciousness seriously and go back home, back to Godhead. Venasya vikshya manayo
venasyaveksya
नस्यावीक्ष्य
munayo
मनयो
durvratasya vachestitam
durvritasya
दुर्वृत्तस्य
दुर्वृत्तस्य
विचेतम्
vichestitam
vimrishya loka vyasanam
vimrishya
विमृश्य
loka vyasanam
लोकव्यासनम्
kripayochusma satrinaha.
कृपया
kripayochusma
चुष्मत्रिणः
सत्रिणः
satrinaha.
Therefore, all the great sages assembled together and, after observing cruel Vena's atrocities, concluded that a great danger and catastrophe was approaching the people of the world. Thus, out of compassion, they began to talk amongst themselves, for they themselves were the performers of the sacrifices. So, in those days, the path of perfection was sacrifices, and now he's stopping all the sacrifice. So now they are saying, what shall we do? Before King Vena was enthroned, all the great sages were very much anxious to see to the welfare of society. When they saw that King Vena was most irresponsible, cruel, and atrocious, they again began to think of the welfare of the people. It should be understood that sages, saintly persons, and devotees are not unconcerned with the people's welfare. They're not going about their own daily business and says like, who cares, whatever it is, let other people's problems be other people's. No, they're actually being very concerned about everyone's welfare. That is the heart of the devotee. The devotee is very compassionate. Paradukha dukhi. He's very unhappy to see others suffering. And that's the reason he goes everywhere, giving the holy name to everyone, so that everyone can chant and go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada was one such devotee. He was concerned about whatever is happening around the world. he was in Vrindavan, he could have said, well, who cares? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm happy in Vrindavan. That's the best place to leave the body. But no, he was concerned about our suffering for each and every one of us. And he left Vrindavan and went to the West to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita in a language that we can understand. So, ordinary karmis are busy acquiring money for sense gratification, and ordinary jnanis are socially aloof when they speculate on liberation. But actual devotees and saintly persons are always anxious to see how the people can be made happy, both materially and spiritually. Therefore, the great sages began to consult one another on how to get out of the dangerous atmosphere created by King Vena. So this shows the heart of the devotee. They're so concerned for everyone in general. No, not only I'm concerned for myself or my family or my country or my society, but for everyone. So the Vaishnav, he's always the most broad-minded. Why is he broad-minded? Because he's concerned for everyone's welfare. Aho ubhayatah praptam
Aho
ubhayatah praptam
lokasya vyasanam mahat
lokasya
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 vyasanam
vyasanam
mahat
mahat
daruni ubhayato dipte
Karunye
daruni
ubhayadito
ubhayadipte
dipte
iva taskara palayo.
iva
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 taskar
taskara
palayo.
taskarapalayoko.
palayo
And the great sages consulted one another. They saw that the people were in a dangerous position from both directions. When a fire blazes on both ends of a log, the ants in the middle are in a very dangerous situation. Similarly, at that time, the people in general were in a dangerous position due to an irresponsible king on one side and thieves and rogues on the other. So they're thinking what to do. There were thieves and rogues because there was no king. There were so many thieves and rogues which came out because they knew nobody could punish them. So now we have a king. So thieves and rogues are being controlled, but this king is so bad. What to do? So from both the sides, they are like kind of in a jinx, no? In a position which is like, wow, what shall we do now? Arajaka bhayadesha.
Arajaka
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 bhayat
bhayad
bhayadesha
esha
Krito raja tad arhana.
krito
Krito
raja
raja
Rajata
tat
atat
arhana
arhanaha
arhana
Tato api asid bhayam tva adya.
tato
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 api
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 asit
asid
asid
bhayam
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 tu
tva
adya
adya
Katham syat swasti dehinam.
katam
Katam
Katham
syat
syat swasti
swasti
dehinam.
dehinam
dehinam
Thinking to save the state from irregularity, the sages began to consider that it was due to a political crisis that they made Vena king, although he was not qualified. But alas, now the people were being disturbed by the king himself. Under such circumstances, how could the people be happy? In Bhagavad Gita 8:15, it is stated that even in the renounced order, one should not give up sacrifice, charity, and penance. 18:5, sorry, Bhagavad Gita 18:5. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be given up. Even if one has renounced the world, he should never give up sacrifice, charity, and penance. And we are taught that sacrifice, charity, and penance in this age of Kali, how we can become Krishna conscious by doing this. Sacrifice, for example. What can anyone say? What kind of sacrifice we could do?
Hari Nam Sankirtan
That's
sacrifice.
right. Thank you. Yes, that is a sacrifice which is prescribed for this age. Charity? Anyone? Well, we can
We should give charities to the
give out.
temples.
I'm sorry?
We should give charity to the temples and spread the
Yeah,
prasadam
Krishna
of
conscious.
Krishna and give Krishna prasadam to people
Prashadam.
rather than
Yes,
just
right?
giving the normal food.
Yes, prasad distribution, charity to the donation to the temple. Very good. And penance? What could we do?
Penance is that we should control our senses, and like we
Yes.
can observe Ekadashi fast. That is the best one as a penance, and we should control our senses. We should just we should just eat the prasadam. We should just hear the Krishna bhajan. Then we should, with the hands, we should clean the temple, pray, ring the bell, clap it in the bhajan.
Yes, nice. Thank you. Yeah. Also observe the appearance days of the Lord. Now God Purnima is coming. So we can do a little bit of austerity for the pleasure of Lord Gauranga. The easiest way to please Lord Gauranga is by Harinam Sankirtan. The brahmacharis must perform sacrifices, the grihasthas must give in charity, and those in the renounced order of life, the vanaprasthas and sannyasis, must practice penance and austerities. These are the procedures by which everyone can be elevated to the spiritual platform. When the sages and saintly persons saw that King Vena had stopped all these functions, they became concerned about the people's progress. Saintly people preach God consciousness or Krishna consciousness because they are anxious to save the general populace from the dangers of animalistic life. So this we can see the heart of the devotee. This is the heart of the devotee. We are trying to understand Srila Prabhupada's mood also. That it's not for his personal concern that he's traveled around the world so many times, even not caring for his health, but for us, for each and every one of us, to save the general populace from the dangers of animalistic life. There must be a good government to see that the citizens are actually executing their religious rituals, and thieves and rogues must be curbed. When this is done, the people can advance peacefully in spiritual consciousness and make their lives successful. So when people are well taken care of, when the material needs are taken care of, they're peaceful and happy, at the same time they can cultivate spiritual knowledge. And this is how life can become successful. Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's stop
Yes.
here. If there are no further questions or comments, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
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 Hare Krishna.